Namaste. Welcome to our continuation of an analysis of the 40 essential virtues by Sri Jayadayal Goyanka, one of the founders of the Gita Press. Freedom from malice. By that, it means freedom from any ill wishing toward a person, or any feeling of delight or happiness when misfortune comes to them. And also a desire that we often have, well, I hope they get theirs back, kind of thing. That too is malice. What we should hope is for their reformation. Usually it doesn't come about, but it does sometimes. But at least we don't create a negative karma between us and them, you see. If you harbor ill will, that is a vibrational connection, a karmic connection between you and another person. And therefore, either in this present life, you will encounter them, or it will be in a future life. So there is a very great value in simple indifference. Therefore, if we can't think, well, I hope good comes to them, at least we don't think, I hope bad comes to them. But again, it's really freedom from a desire for revenge or a hope that bad will come to them. All right, this seems quite easy. Fearlessness, Abhaya. Now that's very important because you have to have, how will you have courage if you have fear? Well, you can have fear, but you just grip and you move on ahead. And that's a virtue. But this should be where you're not afraid of doing the right thing. You're not afraid of the consequence that might come from doing the right thing, namely bad people bothering you. And you also don't have anxiety about what you are doing, which is positive. There are people, they sit to meditate and they think, oh, I've got to do this right. I've got to do this right. Well, tension ruins meditation. So the very tension of I got to do it right spoils it. So also part of Abhaya is self-doubt. Oh, I'm afraid I can't do it right. I'm afraid I won't see it right. What if I don't meditate right, and so on. So this is, in other words, you rest content in your own self, knowing you're doing the best and you hope the best will result. But other than that, what can you do? You can only do your best. Some are faster runners than others. Well, that's the way it is. You just run as fast as you can. I will mention this, of course, regarding sadhana, because that was one of the things that astounded me about Soham sadhana the very first time that I tried it. I was used to, in fact, when the first instructions I ever had, it took you 5 minutes to just get ready. Well, have I got this here? Have I got that? Oh, yes, here's this, in case my throat gets dry. And there was all this paraphernalia and all this stuff. And I've got to be sure I really do it right, because if I do the breathing too strenuously, it won't be good. If I do it too lax, it won't benefit. Strain will harm, and so on. So I sat, closed my eyes, and intoned so when my breath came in naturally, and hum when my breath came out naturally, of course, with my mouth closed. And I felt total peace. And I felt total relaxation. And there wasn't even the shadow of anxiety. And I wasn't worried about whether I'm doing it right or not because I knew I was doing it right because I'd never experienced this kind of freedom from Abhaya, fear, doubt. It was amazing. Therefore, this isn't something that you just manage by psyching yourself up and talking yourself into everything will be all right and so on. No, it is the right japa, the right meditation, and that brings it. You can't talk yourself out of fear. There's a whole thing. See, we think of Peter Pan as the little fun children's story. Actually, it's rather grim, it's rather horrible. It describes violence. And at one point, it goes through how Captain Hook is worrying about good form. This was something 19th century British had, especially the men, very much in their mind. Good form. In other words, the right image, uh, the right doing of things, though. So, in other words, the very appearance would evoke assurance in other people who saw you. And good form also was right conduct. And so Captain Hook is worrying about good form. And he's pondering this, and suddenly he remembers, oh, thinking about good form is bad form. So he's caught. As we say, damned if you do and damned if you don't. So being worried about not being worried also will be it. So it means utter confidence, at least knowing you're doing your best, and that's it. What else can you do? Was a little kind of a jingle they had in the Middle Ages that in English can translate into do your best, then leave the rest. Angels do no more, which is true. They just do their best. So you do your best. All right. The 35th virtue, even-mindedness. Now, this has a couple of aspects. Even-minded is also just not letting yourself be upset, not letting yourself be disturbed, not being fearful, not being anxious, not being overconfident either, but just quiet and still, and therefore confident. This also means in the way we observe things and in the way we react to things. In other words, always with a shield of peace between us. And japa is the only shield I know of that really works for sure all the time. So that you even look at what is usually upsetting or disturbing, but you aren't disturbed. You aren't worried because you're keeping yourself centered into the core of you, yourself, which can't be touched by anything negative. And this is the real secret of that. Sadhana is really the secret to all these virtues. Without sadhana, these virtues are, in many instances, completely impossible. And establishment, or you might say even skill, perfection in these virtues, is completely beyond us. But with sadhana, everything. We say, with God, all things are possible. Well, you and God are one. So when you're in touch with the God within, with yourself, all things are possible. Absence of egotism. That's good to say. He didn't say humility because there's this phony bit. Oh, I'm just a little one, and oh, of course I know I'm not great. Meh, 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 meh. That's ego. That's talking about yourself and denigrating yourself. So it's obsession with yourself. It's obsession with your ego. An humble person does not have a low or poor opinion of themselves. They have no opinion of themselves because they're busy being intent on God, the self of their self, and having goodwill toward the people around them. This is the real truth. So these self castigating people are egotists because they're talking about themselves all the time and they're thinking about the things. A person who hates himself is an egotist because he's thinking himself all the time. That happens to be the truth. We'll say namaste there and take up the rest of the list next time.